Trendsetter, when do we find the time, man, right? Trying to find any kind of time right now is so precious and so far and few between, but we do so for you guys, the crew, man. And good to be here, finding any chance to get this podcast going. This is HSP Podcast on the Give Us a Shot Network. Back with another episode. We're going to preview NXT for you, Deadline, which is Saturday. I'm going to talk about a few more things, especially Bryan the Authoritarian, and of course, CM
Bryan Danielson, you mean?
Bryan Danielson, the Authority, the disciplinarian, how it's come full circle. And of course, we got CM Punk on the mind, man. Still can't believe that he's back in WWE. Has it sunk in yet? We'll talk about that as well. But we are HSP Podcast. Follow us on all our social media at HSP Podcast, High Spot Podcast on Threads, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube here on the Give Us a Shot Network. Like and subscribe. And again, we're back here. It's tough, but we love doing these episodes for you guys. So we're
Tough is an understatement, Jeff. When you have the whole world working against you, to do anything of this, just to sit down in front of a computer, you and I talk about the one thing that we're passionate about, the one thing that never seems to waver, even through its ups and downs. That's just a testament that we love you guys, the crew. We want to make sure we go out every single time and produce something for you guys to watch and be entertained by, and also join in, as Jeff said, and follow us and give us a like and be part of the conversation.
Be part of the conversation. We want you guys to be interactive. But again, the good part about this, though, is that as we're talking about this, we're gonna get a chance to also talk about SmackDown a little bit and kind of intertwine that into today's show. So that's probably the only positive. We should get this earlier for you guys, but hey, you guys are getting this before Saturday, so you can maybe critique our predictions for the upcoming NXT Deadline Premium Live event. We'll get that started in just a little bit. But what a week, Trendsetter. Another week now that we know CM Punk is in the fold, and AEW will take center stage. It'll be on the lead-off spot right now because if you saw AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday night, a solid show. They've got their Continental Classic tournament. And then also it was headlined by two former WWE guys in Adam Copeland, Edge, and Christian Cage, who, let's be honest, when we do these end-of-the-year awards coming up in just a few weeks because the year's almost over, Christian Cage has got to be up there as a top performer, as a maybe a comeback guy, or maybe as just the heel of the year. So he is going to come up a lot in the conversation this year as we head to the end of the year about how important he's been for AEW. He's been must-see. And so with Adam Copeland signing with AEW, you kind of knew it was inevitable that these two guys would either join forces or face off. And they faced off for the TNT Championship this past Wednesday in Montreal. And needless to say, we'll talk about the attendance, but quite an interesting twist there where we saw Shayna Wayne come out, and that's the mom of Nick Wayne. And basically, if you follow the story, basically Nick Wayne has deviated away and has joined the fold of Christian Cage, and now Edge, Adam Copeland kind of took a chair shot and kind of gave him a concerto to me, knock some sense into him, Trendsetter. And she had to make a choice. She had that TNT Championship. She could hit Christian Cage, which she had every right to. But puzzling to me was that she nailed Adam Copeland with it and cost him the match. Why Shayna? Why is the question this week? A lot of controversy, too. First of all, Trendsetter, I'm going to say that this has a potential heat getter here for her, because this is something where I'm pretty sure she's kind of been talked to backstage, and this was like, hey, can you do this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to be on an air personality? Kind of get Vicky Guerrero vibes to me. So I got to ask you, Trendsetter, were you a little bit surprised that this is the way they went about things, that this is going to be the conclusion, that someone who maybe isn't experienced as far as performer would have such a big responsibility in the outcome of this match? Because that's what I think everybody was more complaining about, was Shayna Wayne's involvement, and just, I don't know, it just, maybe the ending didn't seem right to me. Something was missing in this, and it wasn't the performance, it was probably the outcome.
Well, I think from the performance standpoint, what you got in the ring, you got everything you wanted in terms of telling a story between Christian Cage and Adam Copeland, right? So you had that veteran leadership, veteran presence, kind of the guy showing the boys in the back. This is how you construct wrestling matches, how you construct a story and develop suspense and try to listen to the crowd to gain a reaction, right? In terms of Shayna, I'm not surprised in terms of this is the route they went. Let's be honest, Jeff. Every single Christian Cage match we've seen, when it seems like it's all over, Christian Cage is done, there's no other way for him to squeak out a victory or somehow, get victory from the jaws of defeat, he finds a way.
Mhm.
And when you saw her get in the ring holding the title, I hate to say it that I was somebody who could say, this is very predictable, but it kind of lived up to the billing in terms of what you thought, because right now that's what Christian Cage has built his, you could say, newfound fountain of youth type of revitalization in his career. He's got it from this particular reason where it's like it's not. You think you're going to get what you want, and then they'll always find a way of changing it. The execution wise, it's always up for debate, right? She's not a performer. She's not really an active personality. So to me, this doesn't surprise me from an AEW management standpoint. They've been so much into the mindset where, and I can't put full blame on Tony Khan for this, but they've been in the mindset where they're like, the thing you least expect is what we're going to see. And even people who haven't been performers or anything like that, now you're just involved, and we'll fix it, or we'll do something with it when it happens. That's what it feels like to me here. I'm sure a lot of people are upset with that. They wanted a better ending, but again, where are you going to keep creating more heat for Christian Cage is what you want. You still want Adam Copeland to be the chaser. If Adam Copeland had won the title, then it would be like, what was that whole thing worth it for? And a lot of people would probably complain that it just diminished Christian Cage and everything he's done to this point, blah, blah, blah. So the outcome, not surprising. The execution could have been a lot better. But when we say why Shayna, why, I want to ask another question in terms of why Shayna, why.
Oh, so question to another question to maybe answer this question.
Yeah, so people want to ask the question why. And my thing is, no, it's not why not. My question is who cares? And I don't say that to be really mean and be very derogatory towards it, but like this whole thing with Nick Wayne and him separating himself from his friendship with Darby Allin, betraying him, the mother saying, how could you do this? And now Shannon doing the exact same thing and joining this whole stable of what Christian Cage is. Who cares really? To me, it's like, what's the investment? To me, I'm more invested into the story that we all know so well between Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. This is just, I guess, deriving you another direction. So to me, from a fan standpoint, I don't generate any interest in terms of wanting to know why, because I really don't care. I want to see how this story plays itself out. So why Shayna betrayed, I guess, or went against what she was standing for and then sided with Christian Cage and cost Adam the TNT title, I could care less more of that in terms of let's get the story going. I want to see where it goes further from here, because if they go on Dynamite or Collision and talk about this turn, I honestly feel not a lot of people in that arena, if they're any to begin with, are going to care what was the reason behind it.
Wow, okay, that's a different way of saying that. As far totally different direction, because I thought that this just adds another layer. Because you're right, Adam Copeland could have just beaten Christian Cage, and then it would have been for not. Hey, a WWE guy comes in and beats Christian, who's really built up at least over a year now of just quality matches, and also his character development. Right, it's this big heel father-like figure to these young youths that needed guidance. And so now you're adding this story with a mother and son, and maybe the fact that she's going to try to get her son back by joining Christian. It adds another compelling angle to the story. And we talked about the issue with storytelling in AEW. So you said that you can't have two better in-ring performers than Christian Cage and Adam Copeland to close out your show, but also you can't find any two more guys that know how to tell stories like these guys. They know how to. So if this is part of the story, then yeah, I'm going to be a little bit emotionally invested and see what happens, because my question is why. My problem was with the delivery. My problem was that she's inexperienced, obviously, and you could tell she was leaning towards Adam Copeland. She didn't have that little indecision because she was going back and forth, but it just wasn't too back and forth. That's the question. The conflict it was just too like, oh, we know that it's Christian Cage, but no, now she's turning towards Adam. That's to me that was the finish off of that. But I will
Jeff,
say,
besides the delivery, just real quick, and if you can answer this question before you finish your statement, though, do you really care of the reasoning behind it? Is it really something that you're festering and kind of figuring yourself like, how could she do this, or why? Is that the initial? You just said yourself, you're talking more about the execution.
am I losing sleep over it? No. Right? That's what you're asking me. Am I losing sleep? Am I counting down the days till 8 p.m. on Wednesday? No, I'm not. But it does have a potential to be something where, hey, we're begging AEW, hey, give us some stories, right? And this is a story, a typical mother and son trying to get her son back from the grasp of Christian Cage. And now it is viable that, hey, Adam Copeland did give her son a concerto, right? But it was for disciplinary reasons. It was trying to knock some senses into him. But she is a mother first and foremost. So yeah, you know what though? I will say, am I losing sleep over this? No. Am I going to be tuning in Wednesday night just for that? But they are trying to tell a story. But I will say one thing though. Yes, Shayna Wayne is very easy on the eyes, but she has the opportunity to do one thing, and that is, you know how the wrestling fans are. If they know that you're green and they know that maybe you're not ready for this, maybe you're just a little, this might be a little bit too much for you too soon, they're going to instantly turn on you. And she has a chance here to get a lot of heel heat. Nuclear, I'm not sure, but she has a chance to capitalize on this. She has a chance till Wednesday to come up with a perfect storyline and get that heat on her from the fans. She has an opportunity to get some heat and be a very important player in the storyline for months, weeks, or whenever, how long they want to do this. But she has the opportunity to grasp that heat, and we'll see what happens on Wednesday. But I think that there's an opportunity here for this storyline to get a little bit more interesting in the next few weeks.
It'll be interesting to see what the payoff is for this one. Obviously, in terms of storyline being presented to the audience. Let's also be aware, Jeff, and let's draw the conclusion where it is. Is it AEW really presenting the story, or is it Christian Cage and Adam Copeland presenting it? I think you see the difference in dynamic, and I really think it's more them showcasing their, 10+ years of experience and showing you how you do it, as opposed to, I feel AEW is not really trying to go out of their way to present it. But hey, he said in the upcoming weeks, months, who knows what the payoff will be. That's what everybody looks forward to in scenarios like this, and I guess we'll find out. We'll be along for the ride.
Guys, we'll let you know, give you a heads up immediately after NXT Deadline. We will have our HSP NXT Deadline post reaction show on IG Live. So make sure you follow us on our Instagram at High Spot Podcast. We'll be on there after NXT Deadline. We're going to just do a little post real quick and talk about it. A lot of things probably to react to. The Iron Man Survivor Challenge, as well as maybe some returns and something to talk about just to keep you guys, I guess, informed after the show. So make sure you stick with HSP with us on our Instagram Live. So make sure you check that out. All right, Trendsetter, more AEW stuff that I want to talk about. And
joy.
and so here's the thing, right? I would say that a long time ago you mentioned something about Bryan Danielson, and I was a little reluctant to agree with you just because I was like, hey, listen, we met the guy a long time ago in his journey, one of the best storylines ever at WrestleMania 30. One of the reasons, one of the top 10 moments to me in WrestleMania history was Daniel Bryan at that time. The Yes Movement, him winning at WrestleMania 30. Such a great story. Really one that captivated us and made us really enjoy WrestleMania 30. And so I really was a little hesitant to agree with you on this aspect that you called Bryan Danielson a hypocrite. And I was like, well, Trendsetter, I kind of want to get him on the show one of these days, so I don't want to go by far and say that. But it's just a little sunk into me this last couple days, just watching the news here. There's something where it's funny because he's fighting the authority, the storyline in WrestleMania 30. He's fighting it because he's B+ player, and he's fighting the authority because of the fans. They're not listening to them. But now the funny thing is now he's kind of become an authority or an authoritative figure backstage. And to me, it's just something that you just can't be as a talent where you're currently working there. And I think he's crossing that line a little bit where You got your responsibilities and your duties to the boys, but it's very obvious, Trendsetter, that he's got a huge friendship or a bond with Tony Khan, the boss. So I just think it's crossing the line, especially when you come out and say you're part of the disciplinary committee. You're one of the people that gave a strong recommendation that CM Punk not work there anymore. Hence, now you have him in WWE. But now the issue is, hey, he comes out, he clarifies it and says, hey, you know what? If you think that I'm solely responsible, no, we have lawyers and everything. Understood. But now, when you're the one that's handing out fines because the wrestlers are criticizing the product, and fine, that's fine. But when you're handing out fines for going on social media and doing all these things, like the Hardy Boys came out and complained about their role. Mike Santana came out kind of upset about the lack of TV time. Even Britt Baker was talking about her promo time, 0 hours, 0 minutes. There's a you can't have Trendsetter. You cannot have a current wrestler, no matter how tight you are, no matter how much respect you have the guy, you can't have him handing out the fines and still being one of the boys. It just doesn't work to me. And they sit there, and I think what Bryan Danielson's done is he's found his soulmate. He's found a wrestling soulmate in Tony Khan because he shares his vision, and they're both back there backstage laughing, chuckling, and let's do tournaments and let's do all this and that. What can we create? And mind you, this man is breaking down before your eyes, right? And Tony Khan just puts him out there. Hey, you got one eye. Hey, you can go in there and still wrestle in this Continental Classic. I just think he's found his wrestling soulmate at the expense of the boys. What are your thoughts?
Well, a lot to dive into on that one in terms of where I want to go. And I want to make sure I'm taking my time here to a certain extent because I don't want to feel like I'm going in so many directions. I'm not making any sense, which I've been known to do at times, right? But to your last point in terms of Tony, I don't think Daniel Bryan has ever found somebody who is in more sync with what he thinks professional wrestling should be from how Bryan Danielson's standpoint is. Because what Bryan Danielson has found, and people could take offense to it, and I know scenarios everybody always wants to be so kind and polite and politically correct, but he's found himself a huge fan in Tony Khan. And again, that's not an insult to Tony Khan. Tony Khan has gone out countless times on media calls and scrums and interviews and said how much of a fan he is of pro wrestling. Even when he started AEW, he did it because he was such a fan. He would talk about his times watching ECW and all these things in terms of how we could relate to him as an owner because we're like, well, he's going to give us, the fans, what we want to see, right? Okay. But then you see where AEW has started, the huge momentum it had at the beginning, and then obviously the pandemic came and things kind of died down a little bit, and then they came back up. CM Punk signing and all this stuff, right? Seems like a long time ago. It's not the same anymore to a certain degree, and I'm sure a lot of people, if they don't admit it, you're kind of just, I feel, denying it to yourself internally that AEW is still a good, viable second option or just an option in general, but in terms of this whole scenario that's just as good as it once was, I don't know. I'll let the people decide on that one. I personally don't think so.
Back to yeah, go ahead. Yeah, the fact that Danielson, now you said it perfectly.
Yeah, I've called him a hypocrite countless times. Yeah. And it's from a character standpoint when he was Daniel Bryan WWE because he would go about, he was against the authority, and then he would talk about, fighting, being a fighting champion, and then when he defeats AJ Styles for the W Championship, he cheats, right? Calls people fickle and just basically doing the opposite of what he said he was doing. I understand it's a character standpoint, but it's being hypocritical. That's the point, I get it, right? But then you go to a scenario where he's punishing now. He's part of this disciplinary act. And again, I'm not going to talk about the whole scenario with CM Punk, but he's part of this disciplinary committee, authority, whatever you want to call it, right? And now he's fining people for bad mouthing the company and airing their grievances. Well, I'm sorry, Bryan Danielson, but what age and era do we live in? I know he likes to have his little filtered water that comes in to save the environment, but you know what? Recycling BS is a part of what social media is nowadays. So for him to be like, well, now you can't speak your mind, I'm like, really? When it was Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson was the same person that would go out and call Miz a coward on TV, would criticize other wrestlers for not being tough or not being real wrestlers, or them being cowards in terms of their styles in the ring, and would criticize the WWE and the company in terms of the stories they're doing and this and that, whatever the case might be. And yet he now is punishing people for airing their grievances, for airing their frustrations publicly rather than privately. To me, that's the biggest hypocritical move you do. I'm going to fine you now. First of all, you're dealing with a scenario where you have a locker room. And I don't know this for much, but you only go from what we're hearing, what we know, and what kind of assumptions we can try to make.
They're a
Not
little
too
unhappy.
many.
It's a little unhappy right now.
There's some unhappiness in that locker room from these people we just talked about airing their grievances. So to me, it's not just a pattern of storyline. It's Bryan Danielson has a certain way of thinking. He is not of the mindset of this day age of technology. Hell, Bryan Danielson, Jeff, would go on and be the first one to tell you that he is the one guy who has no ambition whatsoever. But now he has this vision of what wrestling should be like, which is basically going back to the old school days of just basically having matches and no story in between. Because Bryan Danielson doesn't like telling stories. He just likes doing the one thing he likes really well and does very well is wrestling. So you lose that dynamic. And Tony Khan going out publicly and saying that, if there's a scenario where I had to step away because they talk about Vince McMahon and him leaving WWE or stepping down from being head of creative, he said he would 100% give it to Bryan Danielson. So you've already told your audience basically that what you're looking for in terms of expanding and going further in wrestling/sports entertainment, you're going to give the hands of somebody who's had no ambition for his entire life, and now he's going to be now assisting Tony Khan in running a wrestling company and kind of directing it from this particular standpoint. It's going to lead to a lot more of these. This is the first we're going to see of it. This isn't the last. And I still stand by what I say with Bryan Danielson. Listen, I'm sure he's a hell of a human being, a nice guy. He was super nice to you and I when we saw him at WrestleMania. So, again, this has nothing to do with Bryan Danielson, the person, the father, the family man, the fan of wrestling. This has something to do with the fact that now you're showing the fact that you're more a company guy than one of the guys.
It's tough to be that role. It's tough. Listen, I understand that when CM Punk left, I guess he was kind of a leader, believe it or not, right? And Tony Khan was kind of, I guess, was drawn towards Punk. Not only was he his biggest moneymaker, but there was again that fan of wrestling that he was drawn to that was just a magnet. And Tony Khan loves those kind of people because that's the kind of person he is. He loves the wrestling aspect. That's fine. But you cannot have an active wrestler do this because it just is not a good look because you have how can I trust this guy I'm wrestling with and not know that he's ready just to go to the boss and tell him stuff that I don't want to be said, or how can I trust that in general? I was watching this, and again, I wish I remembered where it was, but I think it was Bret Hart. It was one of those shoot interviews, and Bret Hart says that, and this is back when we all know George Animal Steel, right? This lovable guy with the green tongue, everything like that.
Yeah.
Great Macho Man Randy Savage, great storyline. The late George Animal Steel. He became an agent. And then so they're on the road and it's him, Randy, and Neidhart, whatever. And I guess they're running late and they get to the arena. They get to the arena maybe 4 or 5 minutes late. George Animal Steel, again, as an agent, not as an active wrestler anymore, tells them, "Where are you guys? You guys are late." He goes, "Oh, we're running late." And then he gets fined, and they tell Vince, and I think it was like $5,000 or something like that. And I'm butchering the story, I know, and I apologize. But the
More detailed, Jeff, honestly.
yeah, I'm going. But the point of the story is that he was an agent, and then Bret Hart goes, "God, I hated George Animal Steel." Yes, that's fine. You hated him because he was an agent, not because one of the boys anymore.
Yeah.
That's where you were like, okay, he's an agent, that's fine. But when you are an active wrestler and you're trying to do that dual role, plus you're so close to Tony Khan, it's so obvious. Plus, we know that now, Daniel Bryan's there is for life. He's the lifer there. He's going to wrestle 3 more years. He's going to be part of the fold. It way after his wrestling career is over, right? So this is a guy that is just right now, it's not a good look. Plus, I know they're starving for leadership, and I know that Bryan Danielson is respected and someone that you can turn to. But how can you turn to the man if he's the one delivering fines and he's the one that, hey, if I open my mouth or if I say anything, he's going to go run into Tony Khan? How can you build that trust? That trust is gone. That's why I think it's hypocritical, because he went from fighting the authority back in the day to now being an authority. And that to me is just, it's hard to even say that I'm saying these words. But
He's a glorified hall monitor, Jeff, is what Bryan Danielson is.
they need leadership,
He
man.
is, because if you're going to try to police grown adults who, let's be honest, sometimes grown adults do act like children at times. It does happen, right? It's not going to work, because as much as people respect Bryan Danielson for what he does in the ring and his career and his amazing ability of wrestling, they probably can't relate to Bryan Danielson when it comes to scenarios of their own career, because Bryan has never been in that scenario. Granted, yes, of being overlooked, of being told he's a B plus player, he's not a main event level caliber. Maybe he can relate to that, but honestly, what advice can Bryan Danielson show you in terms of how to get there when, let's be honest, and honesty is part of what we're doing here, Bryan Danielson would not be in the scenario he was, and how apropos, right? That although he says he has nothing to do with CM Punk being let go from AEW, that there are a whole bunch of lawyers involved. They're asked his opinion, he gave it. Okay, I can believe you there, but for the same guy that was kicked out of the company was the main reason why Bryan Danielson became of relevancy now. Because it wasn't for CM Punk walking out of WWE, Bryan Danielson doesn't get that opportunity to main event WrestleMania.
Yeah, they saw it afterwards. It's crazy how it comes full circle, but
Yeah.
that's not the only problem though. You had a matchup where we just talked about Christian Cage and Adam Copeland in Montreal, all right, in Canada. Two Canadian guys going at it for the TNT Championship, which most people can say sometimes now has a little bit more leeway than the actual AEW World Championship. And these two guys fought and I know it's hard to cam, so you don't see it, but in a very empty arena. I am not a fan of posting pictures of empty arenas. I don't think it might be a little tongue in cheek. And I know in this tribalism, which is AEW versus WWE, you don't care. You show empty arenas and you kind of mock them and you chuckle and like, oh, look how they're doing. Hey, is business good? Yes, they're making a profit. Yes, are they valued more today than something that's 14,000, 15,000 seats? Book or smaller arenas and venues until you grow. But to me, they're doing great numbers for All In again, right? It looks like it's going to sell out faster than it did before. My thing is, there is an attendance problem, and you see it. And I don't think that they're putting a priority onto this. I think they're turning a blind eye and be like, whatever, and just heart and kind of just being too proud of what they're doing in the UK. Then I'm like, your mark here. When you go back to Chicago, I would love to see what happens when they go back to Chicago and there's no CM Punk, or when they or if they change venues for the next All Out. Because right now what they're doing is, it's clear that this product is so far right now, it's not the same that it used to be. I really think they have an attendance problem. I don't know what the solution is. Like I said, try some UK shows, try to do more shows in kind of lesser venues. But right now, what's the solution? I really don't know. And that's really something that I've been thinking long and hard about, scratching my head. And I can't think of how you bring those people back, how you bring that excitement back, and try to get more people to come see the show, because they're not.
Yeah, the question for me isn't necessarily how do you fix it. It's more like how do you continually conduct business with it going on. I think my biggest gripe isn't necessarily attendance in terms of, from a business standpoint. I feel that to your point, right? You could go to smaller venues. You can go to scenarios where that doesn't become a main issue, where you're tarping half of the stadium away from the camera side, the hard camera, because you don't want them to see it. Because from watching on television, and we all know now that crowd noise can be added in. That's one of the benefits of technology that we have nowadays too. So that could also be very misleading as well. You don't notice that, but when people are posting on social media, like you said, those things, and you're seeing, wow, this is a big discrepancy from a guy like Tony Khan and everyone that represents AEW, who are like jumping on that AEW bandwagon, representing the company, saying that, the numbers are amazing. Look what we're doing on television. Television and live attendance are two completely different things. And then when they say that, we're right up there in terms of competition, our places are going sold out. When they're going out and saying that we're getting sellouts, and then all of a sudden you're seeing that, then they're already lying to you. Secondly, too, when the fact that you're going out there from a company and giving tickets away rather than gaining an income from it because you want those seats filled, not a good sign either. How Tony would address it would be in a way, kind of not in a naive sense, because he's not going to address it. If people bring it up, it's very simple, simplistically. It's similar to the whole CM Punk scenario and the whole situation with Jack Perry. He's like, he's not going to comment on it because he can't. I get it. I'm not saying that's a scapegoat in terms of avoiding the issue, but again, he doesn't have to address it. The thing that I think people are drawing to and mocking it now is that, Tony Khan himself has been out there and claiming there's this supposed war between the two companies, AEW and WWE. And the mere fact that we as fans just want to enjoy it as basically having alternatives. We never wanted to see it as, oh, this company is going to overtake WWE. It's not going to happen. The WWE is just too well established for it to be even close, and the numbers prove it in terms of what you see ratings wise, what you see in terms of attendance and ticket sales. Again, I'm not talking about all in or all out, but I don't think it does get addressed, Jeff. I think they're basically going to go business as usual. But to me, from a humbling standpoint, you have to stop preaching out there that we're right there on this level. We're this top tier company, which, yes, you are a great viable option 2 or 3, but doesn't necessarily mean you're right there at that playing field where the top dog is right now, and that's WWE. And that's not me being a WWE guy or being anti AEW. You and I were so excited for AEW's inception and what it is now, what it was in the beginning, and what it is now. We hope it changes over when more people come and see it. But right now, from a business standpoint, I think AEW is having huge issues right now, not just with attendance, but we talked about before, with that locker room. There are a lot of individuals that are signed there that were originally signed in AEW when it first started, and we have not seen them on TV for a long, long time.
Yeah. So, you said it in your reply to me, is that, they might just turn a blind eye. Another thing too is that they have all the money in the world because Tony's funding it, his dad's funding it. So I just don't understand why it's not said more that, hey, like, do you guys want to make a profit? Is this just I don't know, just a labor of love that, hey, because obviously they can sign people. Obviously, they have no issue because of the light work schedule, and obviously that they'll do enough for that wrestler who does not want to be on the road or has issues that, like, for example, in Will Ospreay, where he's going to be able to still live in the UK and come and work here, work at other shows. Here's the thing, man. This forbidden door and all this is great. But at the end of the day, like, it's got to benefit you. That's why WWE isn't willing to open the door to New Japan, or I know, actually, believe it or not, TNA is now going to stream on Endeavor, which is kind of a little on WWE's platform, on TKO's platform, which is interesting, right? But I just don't see the rush to make a profit. It's just, to me, it's still, hey, it's the fans, and that's great, but you got to have an end game. You got to be a business, and you got to want to make money. That attendance is an issue. WWE had the same issue. They were in a rut, and to them, they were able to, get back. And look at this. They're probably on their best surge that they've been in years, right? It is right now, it is top notch. So can AEW turn around? Yeah. Do I see it sooner than later? No. But you got to show me, man, that you want to make a profit. You got to show me that business aspect, that business, just that mindset, because to me it's just like, hey, let's make tournaments, let's have these dream matches, but then at the end of the day, like, where's the want to make a profit? Where's the business side of stuff? So that's a little head scratching to me. If you just want to be a company that is for the fans, technically, all fine and dandy, that's awesome, but you're never gonna get. It's never really gonna be a war when you think about it. All right, Trendsetter, we got NXT Deadline, which is this weekend. So we're going to preview it for you guys here. And so let's do that. So we're going to open up here. And of course, Carmelo Hayes is going to open up the show. And it's going to be him and Lexis King. Lots to talk about there in that opening matchup. On the media call, Shawn Michaels really said they're going to put Lexis King, Brian Pillman Jr., a.k.a. Brian Pillman Jr., also known as, right into the fire. He's going to be, you talk about the biggest matchup of his career. He never had one to me. Well, he had an MJF matchup on Dynamite, or I think it was Dynamite, but that's as close to a big time match that Brian Pillman Jr., Lexis King has had. They're throwing him into the fire. They want to see what he has. Make or break, depending on this, maybe it's a little too much to say. Shawn Michaels, though, see something in this kid. They see something in him. They have to, if they're going to put him in this matchup this early against a guy who's well established in Carmelo Hayes. Is it, to me, the biggest match of Lexis King's early career in NXT? Yes. How big a deal is this in your eyes for Lexis King? Is this make or break this early in his NXT career?
Definitely, 100%. It is the biggest match of his career if he wants his career to continue at the level that not only we as fans expect him to be, but I'm sure he himself. Listen, we've seen him on the independents. We've spoken to him. We've even had him on the show, right? There's just something innately about him that draws you to him. It could be the similarity that he looks like his father, Brian Pillman. It could be the scenario where he's bringing a lot of old school things back in, and you're seeing some elements, not necessarily on NXT television, but you saw some elements of the loose cannon character that to me was way ahead of its time. And maybe, now it's like you see that in like a John Moxley, for example, in terms of you don't know what the guy's going to do type of scenario, if I had to compare it to somebody right now. So yes, if I was Lexis King, I would say yes. It's the biggest match of my career, because for the longest time we've been hearing nothing but potential about him. The potential, it's there. Oh my God, looks so much like his father, and he's really good in the ring. And can he put all the pieces together? He's not a young guy by any means in terms of people, and I understand that prime in the career of wrestling, it takes a long time. I understand that, but moments like this don't always happen. He's been successful everywhere he's gone to a certain point, but there's always been something that's been holding him back. Could be possibly himself, could be possibly management. The biggest company in the world is giving you an opportunity on their platform. And I said this to you before when we found out he signed with WWE and was going to be part of NXT. If he cannot be successful now, a lot of it's going to be on him. It has to be now, because he's been given every opportunity to do it, and this is his biggest opportunity. If he can show that he is at that level, and I'm not talking about in-ring performance. I mean, not everyone's going to be at the level of a Carmelo Hayes, right? He's very good. He's very athletic. But you need to hold your own and show that you belong. That's what I'm looking forward to in this match. Wins or losses, it doesn't matter, because if you show the audience, if you show the people in the back, and more importantly yourself, that you belong here and you can stand toe-to-toe with the best of them, that's going to be the launching point of the start of his career rather than the end of it. So
And,
it's the biggest match of his career.
and that's why I think that upset alert. I think Lexis King is going to get the victory over Carmelo Hayes.
I don't think so. I think Carmelo when it comes out victorious here, but we're going to see Lexis King showcase, hopefully, what he's all about.
And I think that while you're right that it's not going to matter a victory, I think it will be as having a victory here, because it's going to be, you just mentioned, the biggest match of his career, and to get him involved. And if you're going to really invest in Lexis King this early, you're going to want to get a victory here. So that's why I'm going to say he comes out with the victory. I say upset alert. This is going to be a shocker because Carmelo is so well established, but he's got that issue with Trick Williams that could be on his mind. And the inevitable matchup with Trick Williams. That's what everybody is looking for. Everyone's looking for that eventual Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes matchup. So I think that he might be overlooking Lexus King here because he could be thinking, this is in the bag. I got him. So that's the worst thing you can do with that mindset. And, for a guy like Carmelo, looking ahead could be a detriment for him. So I'm going to say Lexus King pulls off the upset victory. And like you said, to catapult his quick rise in NXT. And hey, listen, they're all for it, man. They see something in this kid, right? So I think that if they might as well see it, hey, let's go full blast, man. Let's give him this big, huge, monumental victory over a guy like Carmelo. And I'm all for it, dude. I'm all for it. I want to see where this guy goes. I mean, he didn't have that opportunity in AEW. A lot of starts and stops. But now NXT, the WWE platform, is giving him that opportunity. All right, Trendsetter, steel cage match. Roxanne Perez and Kiana James. It's been a little bit of a, I would say, kind of like her momentum, Roxanne, has kind of slowed down a little bit. Perhaps the injuries, but she's somebody that should be in the, NXT Women's Championship fold in that aspect. And now she's going to be in the steel cage. This is very personal, but I think that Roxanne Perez is going to bounce back, and I think she's going to get the victory in the steel cage because I still think that, and she's still very young. She's still so young, right? The prodigy. I think that, this is going to be another catapult back into the NXT Women's Championship picture, and I think that she gets the victory over Kiana James.
I'd agree. I think the way the storyline's going, that's what's going to end up happening here. She's definitely lost a lot of momentum, and that's definitely been something. You said it could be detriment to injury. It could be the mere fact too that scenario-wise, I don't think she came off on camera as somebody that was very likable as much as she tried her demeanor to be that way. So I kind of looked at it as I couldn't wait for her to lose in a sense, but I think she's going to come out victorious on this one.
And that's a great point that you made too. Sometimes when you're that kind of goody two shoes and you're just too good, it's just very tough for you to want to root for that person. All the talent in the world, but it's kind of been sidetracked a little bit. Injuries maybe played a key factor, but I think we're all in agreement there with Roxanne Perez. All right, the NXT North American Championship Trendsetter is on the line. Dirty Dom Mysterio will defend his championship against Dragon Lee. Before we get to my predictions on this one, I just want to say one thing. And being able to watch SmackDown tonight and getting a chance to add this critique to this preview, to me, is kind of where I kind of got my blood boiling a little bit because here's the thing. Dragon Lee, I don't want to get to the point where he's losing to Santos Escobar all the time and he's jobbing out. He got called up to the main roster, and now he's doing this because, unfortunately, the back injury to Wesley, because if not, this would have been Wesley, and obviously most likely would have been Wesley regaining the NXT North American Championship from Dominic Mysterio. But unfortunately, we wish you the best of luck, Wesley. We hope you come back. It's a serious back injury. He's going to be out 8 to 12 months, and again, you hate to see that. But I'm not a fan of the booking of Dragon Lee right now because he's losing more than I would like for him to do so. If he's going to be a viable option on the main roster, then he's got to get some wins here. So the dilemma is Dragon Lee's already on the main roster. Do you want a North American Championship to change hands and take the momentum away from Dom if it wasn't going to be Wesley? I'm going to say Dirty Dom wins this one. But again, I hate to do this because I just think it's killing the momentum for Dragon Lee because I don't want him to lose too much. And I think he's doing that already early on the main roster. And the video packages have been awesome. I think he's super talent. I totally agree with Rey Mysterio that this guy could be the next face of Lucha Libre. But I just don't like the early losses for Dragon Lee. And on top of all that, I have him losing to Dominic Mysterio. Go figure, right? But I just hope things turn around for Dragon Lee because he's super talented.
He is super talented, and it's frustrating to watch the fact that the momentum he got when he first debuted in NXT to it kind of dwindled a little bit. Then he was moved up to the main roster, and it hasn't been exactly, I'm sure, what he expected to be. Now coming back down to NXT to fill in a spot, it's tough, man, in terms of a booking standpoint, because I honestly don't see Dom losing this at all. I see Dom retaining the title. I think right now the North American title makes more sense to be on Dominic Mysterio because you need to have that heel, that hate. In terms of talk about nuclear heat, nobody has more nuclear heat than Dominic Mysterio. So the mere fact to take it off him for a feel good story in terms of the good guy coming on top, I don't see it right now, and I'm really concerned too because Dragon Lee is very talented right now, but the way he's being presented, and you could debate back and forth: do wins and losses really matter in wrestling? Yes and no, but it's also perception of it as well, and I think in the long run, it's hurting him a little bit more. So I don't see him coming victorious on this one, but there has to be a scenario where there needs to be a focus on Dragon Lee if they are going to, you know, put a lot more emphasis on him in terms of him being, let's say, possibly the next Rey Mysterio, for example. Then you can't have scenarios like this where you put him in situations where it's a no win for him, and that's the scenario he's in right now. I don't think it's a no win scenario for him. If he wins the title, people will be against it. If he loses, which I think he will, and Dirty Dom will come out victorious, then oh my God, you're burying this guy, and this guy, you're booking him wrong type of mentality, and I think that's what we're gonna get at the end of the night.
The Women's Iron Survivor Challenge. Now, this is the first time that we've actually previewed an NXT Deadline. Last year, I think we just, we weren't able to. And so the concept is 25-minute match after all 5 men are in there. So every 5 minutes, 2 guys will start. Every 5 minutes, a new guy will be there. It's 5 guys and 5 ladies. And so that's the concept of the match. If you lose a pinfall, you go into the penalty box for 90 seconds. So we're going to talk about the women's Survivor match, and there's, of course, is the men's. But let's talk about the women's first, Trendsetter. And let me tell you this: you got Tiffany Stratton, Blair Davenport, Lash Legend, Kalani Jordan, and Fallon Henley in this matchup. All right, I was going to say Tiffany Stratton, but after Lash Legend body slammed Otis, my God, you got to capitalize on this. It is going to be a little shocker and another upset, but Lash Legend, you got to capitalize on her body slamming Otis, man. The crowd went nuts. That thing went viral. Literally body slammed Otis, man. This wasn't a hip toss, okay? This wasn't like Yokozuna being hip tossed by Lex Luger. This was a body slam. Crazy power by Lash Legend. And I think she wins this one in a shocker because you need to capitalize on the body slam from NXT the other night.
Listen, capitalizing and changing the trajectory of a superstar are two completely different things, in my opinion, Jeff. Yes, are they going to capitalize it? Of course. You know what? The way they're going to capitalize off it with Lash Legend is going to be the fact that she's going to be dominant in this match. They're going to showcase her and make her look like $1 million. Rightfully so, right? In terms of what she did to Otis. But to me, it's Tiffany Stratton. To me, she is the star right now, still currently, of that women's division. She's the face of that division. And we still haven't seen scenario. We thought she was going to have an opportunity overcoming Becky Lynch. That didn't end up happening, but she showcased herself on a different level. I think that momentum for her hasn't dwindled, in my opinion. So as much as, yes, we like to give people who've gained that momentum that opportunity, I don't think that's what's going to cause her to come out victorious here. We're going to showcase Tiffany Stratton in the end becoming victorious and still being the face of that women's division until somebody can prove her wrong. It's a great start. I hate to say and diminish something like body slamming Otis as a launching pad as opposed to let's get her right then and there. But hey, we all know this is a waiting game, Jeff. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So right now I got Tiffany Stratton coming out victorious in this one.
And guess who's back, baby? Nikita Lyons is back. Oh, is she ever back, man? Did you see her re-debut on NXT? It's been a long time, but glad that she's back because, again, she's easy on my eyes. Nikita, welcome back to NXT. Looking forward to what you're doing. Hopefully 2024 is going to be your year, but glad that she's back as well. All right, Spencer, the men's Survivor Challenge, Iron Survivor Challenge. Again, you got guys like Braun Breaker in it. You've got Josh Briggs, who we actually got to see here wrestle locally here in Jersey. You've also got
Taylor Bate.
Yeah, you got Dijak, we've seen too, and Taylor Bate, who's actually going rumors about him being called up to the main roster. Trick Williams, again, Braun Breaker, Trendsetter. This is Trick Williams' time.
Yeah, we really have to discuss this right now. Trick Williams all the way here.
I mean,
no offense to the other guys there, and it's going to be a great match, and it's going to be super talented. I'm sure, the momentum that Braun Breaker had, and then Josh Briggs, and then also Taylor Bate, the rumors of him possibly going to the main roster. So good. Dijak, we've seen him wrestle before in the past. Really good wrestler, but it's all about Trick Williams right now, and there can't be a doubt right now. If there's ever a if you're a betting man and there's ever a sure thing,
Watch. Something's gonna happen. Maybe Carmelo shows his true colors and
maybe.
actually costs Trick Williams. Right? You never know. But interference aside, I think again Trick Williams is the man, and it's just gonna add to that seed that now Trick is the future, and where does that leave Carmelo Hayes? So obviously, it's going to be very interesting. But to me, that's going to be a really good match. But you got to go with Trick in this one. All right, the main event, the NXT Championship is on the line. It's going to be Ilya Dragunov against Baron Corbin, the Dragon, and Baron Corbin. Props to Baron Corbin, man. This is the Baron Corbin I've always wanted to see. I've known it's always been there. But again, it just shows you that he's that kind of guy. It's dependable. He can do the comedy. He can be that bad guy. He can be that comedic bad guy. But he needed a change of pace. He needed new scenery. And it has been a blessing in disguise for a guy like Baron Corbin going back to NXT. You can go home again, Trendsetter. And I think that it's just been a totally different Baron Corbin. Kudos to him. This is the guy that's always been there, who we've known can do it. We loved everything he's done, but it's time he gets back to that Baron Corbin character, and this is really great. And they're going to have a very good match. But I got to go with the Dragon here, with Ilya Dragunov victorious. But I think it's going to be one of the matches of the night.
Dragon versus the Lone Wolf, man. So everyone wants to see this match. They've been looking forward to it. The storytelling for this has been great, and not necessarily for anything in terms of with Baron Corbin. And I'll make this short and sweet, right? Because I could talk for hours about in terms of how his career has progressed from the ups and downs, right? When you look at everything he's done, and he can do it all, really. He's proven it from the comedic sides to the hateful, the nuclear hero, all that stuff. But what's so cool about it, when we first saw the version of Baron Corbin in NXT, it was a cool aspect. It got brought up to the main roster, and then it just didn't have any momentum. You could say it was management. It was people who were in control back then that probably didn't know what to do with the guy like Baron Corbin. That's why he went through so many versions that he did on the main roster, all to his success, I must say. Except Happy Corbin. I wasn't a big fan of Happy Corbin, but he did his best. Now with this scenario, it feels more that word that we all look for in terms of when we see people, either they figure it out or you see, okay, now this is what we've been waiting to see. It feels authentic. It feels real. And Baron Corbin has now come to a level where, can you go home again? Yeah, of course you can. But when you're going home, finally leaving as a boy and coming back as a man,
Yeah.
this is the man of Baron Corbin. Coming back, and you're a man now. You know what you are. You know what you bring to the table. We know all the great things that he can do in the ring athletically for a guy his size in Baron Corbin. But the psychology, the ability of now having the line say, this is the badass we wanted for so long. And it's not at a detriment to anybody else. It's just showcasing this is Baron Corbin. This is what he can do. And this is a legit threat to the Dragon's title reign. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think the champ's going to retain. But, man, what a great opportunity and what a great thing to see a guy like Baron Corbin finally have that it factor and realizing, to steal a word from Chris Jericho, it's great, man. It's great to watch.
It's going to be a great match, man. It's going to be a great night of wrestling. Of course, NXT on Saturday from Bridgeport, Connecticut. And make sure to catch us after NXT Deadline. We'll be with you guys for NXT post-reaction show on IG Live. So follow us on our IG at High Spot Podcast. And yeah, man, definitely too. And you can also listen to us here and watch us here on the Give Us a Shot Network. Like and subscribe, download, and also on all social media platforms. You can just follow High Spot Podcast, and on all podcast platforms, you can also listen to us. So definitely do that and download the episodes. HSP podcast, guys. You can,
if you don't like watching ugly mugs, at least listen to it, for God's sake.
Listen to our sexy ass voices. But Corey Jade, man, a lot of rumors that she might be on the return, so definitely looking forward to her. And, man, that women's division just loaded, man. You add Corey Jade into the mix, that's crazy, man. And with CM Punk returning, and then you see how Corey Jade was a huge fan, she kind of maybe gave away last week that CM Punk was returning, or she had an idea or something like that, because that pick and then deleted it. But Corey Jade, who is coming back, if not on Saturday, sooner than later. But there are rumors that she'll be there. Good to have her in the fold, and just adds another person to this NXT Women's division. It is loaded. The women's rosters now are loaded on Raw and SmackDown, and NXT is bringing the heat here with the ladies as well. And then you've got a kickoff matchup also too with Axiom and Nathan Frazier. They're going to tear the house down. Great matchup to kick it off. I'll go give me Nathan Frazier there with the victory at to kick off things for NXT. But a great weekend of wrestling, Trendsetter, and we've got all the action for you covered with us here at HSP right after the Premium Live event. One last thing before we wrap it up, Trendsetter, and that is on CM Punk. Will he sign with Raw or SmackDown? Your predictions, what goes down this Monday night? You get the feeling that after the promo that he just delivered, the tribute to the troops, you think he's leaning towards Raw or SmackDown?
To me, there's no question. From the beginning, when he started here, from the rumors that were talked about, and not to go on a long tangent here, like I always do, right? But to me, it's been written the fact that if CM Punk was willing to come back, it had to be with Seth Rollins. The history there, hopefully they go back to the history between Seth and CM Punk from Seth Rollins and his NXT days when CM Punk was WWE champion, to him kind of being like the next guy to supersede CM Punk when he left, to the scenario when CM Punk came back on Fox and they had a little, jabs back and forth between him and Seth Rollins. The whole scenario that happened in AEW to coming back now and Seth Rollins reacting the way he did at the end of Survivor Series War Games. Was it a work or not? Just enjoy it, guys. Who gives a crap if it was a work or not? Just enjoy it for what it is.
And you get that
the promos that Seth has gone out to say.
You get the SA interview that he did where he's still in character and he's just adding to that feud, right? It's inevitable.
Exactly. It's inevitable too. And then you see CM Punk not addressing Seth Rollins by name, but obviously, you had to be an idiot to not know that he's addressing basically him without saying his name. It's all leading to that. Are we going to see it right away? No, because to me, it's the pinpoint of what we want to see in Philadelphia. So to me, he's signing in with Raw. It just makes sense because you're going to continually do that. He wants to main event WrestleMania. What's your best route to main event WrestleMania right now? Seth or Roman? Does one finish the story, or as he said so eloquently, did they finish what they started? We'll find out. And I think it works best for both guys right now.
You talk about a WrestleMania. This WrestleMania, you could have two stories finished, right? Two wrestlers potentially finish their story. One in Cody finishing his story and beating Roman Reigns, and then CM Punk finishing his story of main eventing WrestleMania against Seth freaking Rollins. WWE is hot right now, man, and looking forward to Monday night. Trendsetter, looking forward to NXT Deadline on Saturday. So, guys, tune in. Make sure you catch us on Instagram Live following NXT Deadline Premium Live event. We are HSP Podcast on the Give Us a Shot Network. Trendsetter, close it like you always do, my man, with fire.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this preview of NXT Deadline, all we talked about in the world of pro wrestling sports entertainment. We are the Jersey Wrecking Crew for my tag team partner, Jeff Martin Scoundrel. I am the Trendsetter, Brian Berga. Thank you so much. Make sure you follow us again. Enjoying it. Guys, we went through hell and high water to do this for you guys, and you know what? It is a labor of love, and you know what? I do not complain one bit. Only when I work with this guy do I complain.
Sometimes. Oh, look, we almost made it through the whole show without an
I said sometimes. Sometimes now. It's not a full-blown attack on you. Sometimes, depending on the hour, depending on the day, when we do this in the wee hours of the morning. I'm not going to complain right now, though, because, guys, we do this for one reason and one reason only. Since day one-ish, and I'll take it from one of my old friends, my Oos brothers, we do this for you guys, the